Today, you are about to hear the real and powerful life story of Queen Victoria, the woman who became queen at just 18, ruled the biggest empire in the world, fell in deep love, lost everything, and still stayed strong. This story is perfect for English learners. It's easy to understand, full of emotion, and filled with history, love, pain, and power. So, if you love stories and want to learn English in the best way, don't forget to subscribe and stay with us till the end. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Lonely Girl Who Would Be Queen. On May 24th, 1819, a baby girl was born in Kensington Palace, London. Her name was Alexandrina Victoria, though the world would later know her simply as Queen Victoria. She was not expected to become queen. At birth, she was fifth in line to the throne, far behind several others who had stronger claims. But over time, one by one, those ahead of her either died or had no children. No one imagined this small, quiet child would grow up to rule an empire that covered 1/4 of the world. But fate had chosen her. To the outside world, palace life looked rich and beautiful. But for Victoria, childhood inside Kensington Palace felt more like a cage than a home. Her mother, Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, was extremely strict. And her mother's advisor, Sir John Conroy, controlled every part of Victoria's life. Together, they created a set of harsh rules called the Kensington System, designed to isolate and weaken her, keeping her small, dependent, and easy to control. She was not allowed to walk alone, eat with who she wanted, or play freely. Until her teenage years, she even had to sleep in the same room as her mother. She had no childhood friends, only her dogs and dolls. But inside this quiet, tightly controlled world, something powerful was growing. Victoria became an avid reader, a lover of art and music, and a quiet observer of the world. She kept a secret diary. Her spirit was not broken. In fact, it was becoming stronger. She may have been a child in a cage, but a queen was already forming inside her. When Victoria was just 8 years old, her life changed in one silent moment. A teacher showed her a family tree. She followed the lines, looked at the names, and realized something shocking. She would one day be queen. She didn't tell anyone, but that night she wrote in her diary, "I will be good." It was not a childish thought. It was a promise. She would rule with kindness, discipline, and dignity. But her days were still hard. Her mother was cold and controlling. Victoria often felt unloved. She had no siblings and lived under constant rules. She was expected to act perfect every day, always watched, always judged. Still, she continued to learn. She became fluent in French, German, and Italian. She loved to draw, write, and paint. In silence, she prepared herself for the day when the crown would come. At the age of 16, a new feeling entered her lonely life. Love. A young man named Prince Albert, her cousin from Germany, came to visit the palace. He was kind, thoughtful, and intelligent. He played music, spoke gently, and made Victoria feel seen, something she had never experienced before. They talked. They laughed. There was a spark, but soon he left. She was still too young, and her mother kept strict watch over every move she made. Yet, deep inside, Victoria knew. He would return, and when he did, her life would never be the same. On a quiet morning in June 1837, Victoria was awakened early. A man entered her room, bowed, and spoke the words that would change everything. "Your Majesty, the King is dead." Her uncle, King William IV, had passed away. And now, at only 18 years old, Victoria was queen. She entered a room filled with powerful older men, all expecting a weak girl they could control. But Victoria stood tall, looked each one in the eye, and spoke with calm confidence. She surprised them all. From that day, she took full control of her life. She moved out of Kensington Palace and into Buckingham Palace, her new royal home. And her first royal act? She removed Sir John Conroy from her life forever. After years of being watched and ruled by others, she was finally free. But freedom came with a heavy weight. Victoria had no experience in government, no husband to support her, and many people around her who still tried to manipulate her. She was surrounded by smiles that hid sharp intentions. She had to learn fast, but she was determined. She would not be remembered as a puppet or a weak girl on the throne. She would lead the British Empire, and she would do it her way. She had a clear vision. She wanted to be a queen of the people, strong, wise, fair. And she wanted to find love, not just for herself, but to set an example of human connection in a cold, royal world. The small girl once locked in her mother's shadow was gone. Now stood a young woman with a crown, ready to write her own story. Chapter 2. The Queen and Her Love. Prince Albert, the man who touched her soul. Becoming queen was not a celebration. It was a responsibility. Victoria was only 18. The crown sat heavy on her head, but what made it heavier was the isolation she still carried inside her heart. Every decision, every document, every meeting, it was hers to handle. She had no father, no siblings, no close advisors she could truly trust. And even though she had removed Sir John Conroy and escaped her mother's shadow, she was still a young woman alone, running a massive empire where one wrong move could shake the world. She needed someone, not just to rule beside her, but someone to stand beside her heart. One morning, a letter arrived. It was from her uncle Leopold, King of Belgium, the same man who had suggested years ago that Victoria might be a good match for his nephew, Prince Albert. Victoria's heart skipped. She had met Albert before, when she was just 16. He had soft eyes, a quiet voice, and a thoughtful spirit. She never forgot his gentle presence. Now her uncle was reminding her, he is ready to visit again. That night, Victoria couldn't sleep. She didn't know it yet. But she was about to meet the man who would completely change her world. On October 10th, 1839, Albert returned to London. The moment he entered Buckingham Palace, something magical happened. Victoria saw him, and she couldn't stop smiling. She later wrote in her diary, "It was with some emotion that I beheld Albert. It was love at first sight." And for the first time in British history, a queen proposed to a man. Yes, Victoria didn't wait. She asked Albert to marry her. Because she was queen, only she could propose. And she did it boldly, honestly, from her heart. Albert said yes. He loved her too. On February 10th, 1840, Queen Victoria wore a beautiful white gown. A gown so iconic that it started a tradition still followed today: white wedding dresses. Yes, Victoria was the first royal bride to wear all white, symbolizing purity, love, and a new life. As she walked toward the altar, her heart was pounding. Not from fear, but joy. Albert stood waiting, wearing a uniform that made him look like a prince from a storybook. But this was not just a royal marriage. This was real love. When they held hands and said their vows, the entire empire felt it. This wasn't political. This was emotional. After the wedding, Victoria wrote in her diary with overwhelming joy, "I never spent such an evening. My dearest dear Albert. His great love and affection gave me feelings of heavenly love and happiness I never could have hoped to feel." For once, she wasn't a lonely girl. She wasn't just a queen. She was a wife, a woman in love. But marriage wasn't just romantic. It was a partnership. Albert had no official power. He wasn't king. But he became Victoria's most trusted advisor. He read documents with her, helped her understand politics, guided her when she felt overwhelmed, whispered calm thoughts when the pressure of ruling nearly broke her. He never tried to outshine her. He stood beside her, not in front of her. Victoria once said, "Albert is my everything, my husband, my support, my soulmate, my crown." Together they were unstoppable. In the next 17 years, Victoria and Albert had 9 children. 1. Victoria, the eldest daughter. 2. Albert Edward, later King Edward VII. 3. Alice, 4. Alfred, 5. Helena, 6. Louise, 7. Arthur, 8. Leopold, 9. Beatrice, the youngest. Yes, 9. Their home, Osborne House, was full of laughter, toys, books, and the sweet chaos of royal childhood. Albert loved science, education, and order. Victoria loved emotion, art, and affection. Together, they taught their children discipline and love. They wanted their children to be royal but human, not cold like the royals of the past. But raising 9 royal kids wasn't easy. Victoria often wrote in her diary about post-birth depression, loneliness during childbirth, and struggles as a mother. Yet Albert was always by her side, calming her, supporting her, making her feel strong again. He was not just her husband. He was her anchor. While Victoria was the public face of the monarchy, Albert worked behind the scenes to modernize Britain. He helped improve education, science and technology, worker conditions, public housing, art and culture. He also helped organize the Great Exhibition of 1851, the world's first international expo, showing that Britain was a leader in innovation. This event changed how the world saw the British Empire. Albert was not just a pretty prince. He was a builder of the modern world. Despite the fame, the duty, and the power, Victoria and Albert were still just a man and a woman who loved being together. In the evenings, they would sit and read books, play piano, walk in gardens, laugh about politics, talk about their dreams. Victoria often said, "When I am with Albert, I am just Victoria, not Queen Victoria, just me." Their love was simple but deep. They didn't rule from fear. They ruled from partnership, trust, and devotion. But no love story is perfect forever. Albert had a weak body. He worked too hard, too many long nights, too much stress. And slowly, his health started to fade. Victoria noticed. His hands became colder, his skin pale, his smiles less bright. She begged him to rest. He didn't listen. He said, "There is still so much to fix in this world." She didn't know it yet, but the love of her life was slipping away, and her heart was about to face the deepest pain it